In the previous week, we saw how diverse India is. And this diversity is often interpreted by people, especially outsiders, as chaos. Looking at many busy Indian streets or markets, it seems there is no order to anything. It's overcrowded, rules aren't being followed. Any given road could have trucks, cars, auto rickshaws, scooters, bicycles, bullock carts, pedestrians, dogs, cows, food stalls, vegetable sellers, and even things like imported jeans and t-shirts being sold, all simultaneously. These aren't the usual patterns that the West is used to seeing. There aren't separate assigned spaces for all these different activities in the way that there are, for example, different lanes for bicycles on many city roads in the West. It's another example, in fact, of out of one, many. Indian mythologist Devdutt Pattanaik offers another way for us to approach the apparent chaos of India. He suggests that the order and chaos dichotomy is the wrong way to interpret what's going on. Instead of demanding order, thereby creating efficiency by paying the price of exclusion, India is liberated from boundaries. It is inclusive. I'd encourage you to watch Devdutt's talk. In fact, we've put a couple of them in the further resources in the next section. And consider how this approach to the topic of India's complexity can help India make more sense to you. One example that Devdutt gives is the Asura, as a mythological character called the Rakta Bij. Whenever a drop of his blood falls on the ground, another Rakta Bij would spring up in that place. In some ways, problem solving in India can be a bit like this. You can quickly run into difficulties if you try to overcome a problem in India and try to address it without understanding how it relates to other problems and what are the underlying factors. How do problems relate to each other? This is a particularly important lesson for foreigners approaching India. Whether students or a company or an NGO, if you want to try and change something in India, get something going, without first understanding the context and considering the implications of what you're actually trying to do, it rarely will produce good results because India is complex. Taking a systems thinking approach, the kind now being employed by many companies around the world and scientists, helps navigate the complexity problem of India. India might not actually be chaotic, but it certainly is complex. People often think of India's complexity in the context of it being difficult. It's not an easy place all of the time. Things aren't necessarily clear. India can be quite hard to understand. India's democracy, its legal system, its diversity, all slow efficiency, order, and ultimately perhaps even progress. But hopefully by the end of this week, you will be able to create your own framework for understanding some of India's complexity, and rather than being frustrated, will be intrigued and inspired to learn more from it. Next week, you'll also learn how this inclusivity, interconnectedness, diversity and complexity all require and produce creativity. To really see the complexity of India, we're going to do something seemingly pretty straightforward, if unusual. We're going to look at the 2016 calendar. You can learn a lot about a country by looking at its calendar. The US, for example, has holidays honouring key people like Martin Luther King, President's Day, Columbus Day, Veterans Day, or honouring key moments in history like Independence Day or Thanksgiving, as well as Christian religious holidays such as Christmas, not to mention the hallmark holidays like Valentine's Day. India also has holidays honouring key people and key historical moments, but India's religious diversity, inclusiveness, and what Indian psychologist T.N. Madden has called participatory pluralism take the country to whole new levels in terms of holidays. In fact, India has more public holidays than any other country in the world, 21 of them, versus just 10 in the United States. Like the US, India recognises Christmas as an official holiday, but it also obviously celebrates the important days of the religions that came out of India and the religions of the second largest religious community in India, Islam. So Hinduism, Islam, Sikhism, Buddhism and Jainism all have government-recognised gazetted holidays. To add to the complexity, rather than being fixed, these religious festivals are movable, adjusting each year to the lunar as well as the seasonal calendar, rather like Easter Day does for Christians. On top of this, where you are in India will affect which days, which people and which festivals are being celebrated. Most Americans would probably guess that Diwali is India's most important holiday. And this would be true for many Indians. But asking someone in the south of the country, or the east, or the northeast, which is the most important holiday to them or in their region, and they will almost certainly give you a different answer. The objective of our exercise today is not just to see that India has a high number of holidays, but rather we shall use simultaneously the calendar as a tool for providing great insight into India's complexity, including India's history, politics, economics, and religion. Because a calendar is a really great window into what's important for a culture. Join us this week as we work through India's calendar, as we understand the complexity of India. We aren't going to be moving chronologically through the year, but rather look at various themes one at a time.